Hey, good morning, guys. Today is Thursday, November 10th. We're going to look at the market to see what's kind of going on today. We do have a lot of heavy impact news. The kind of key thing we're talking about today is a CPI news. If you don't know what CPI is, it mostly has to do with inflation, right? The higher their inflation is going up, the more the Fed is going to up interest rates, right? The more the interest rates are going to be increased, the dollar will keep on going up. So interest rates really stop people from buying so much things at a given time, right? People are going to hold on to their money to save it, which is why the dollar has been in a uptrend for quite some time. If you've been looking at the market, you've been realizing the DXY dollar has been in an uptrend for over a year now, right? And that has a lot to do with interest rates and inflation. The CPI measure the core inflation of the entire economy, right? The higher the inflation, the Fed will most likely up the interest rate, right? When the lower the inflation, most likely they're not going to do that. But it really all depends, right? But the data really does have a lot of impact on the market, as you will see in just a second. When it comes down to being a price action trader, you can decide either to stay out of the market on days like this, or simply just study them, or just if you are approaching the market and you do see a valid setup, right? You can always have a stop loss to protect yourself, okay? But most likely on days like this, a lot of traders will tend to stay out of the market. If they do trade the market, like I said, they will always place a stop loss on the trade to protect themselves against heavy spikes, against back and forth price action. I mean, anything pretty much goes on days like this, right? If you're looking at the forecast, you can see that was very much wrong. They forecast inflation to be about 0.6%, but it's at 0.4%, right? The CPI here at 0.9% forecast, but came out less at 7.7%. And the same thing with the core CPI, right? They forecast 0.5%, but it came out at 0.3%. If we click on the folder, it says actual greater than forecast is good for currency. So if actual is greater than forecast is good for currency, that means the DXY would have kept on pushing up in value if the inflation came out higher, right? If it came out higher, the Fed most likely would keep on pushing up interest rate, right? That would have been good for the currency as far as the DXY. It would keep on going up in value and keep on following that uptrend. It's been going on for so long now, right? But looking at the data, the inflation came out less than what was forecast. So this right here could be bad news for the DXY, right? So now we understand what that means for the market and how it took effect as far as fundamental wise. Let's go look at the DXY and look at a technical standpoint from the market, right? And as we can see, the DXY is doing exactly what I predicted. It's falling to the downside. This right here is a very crucial point for the DXY. If we're looking at the weekly market, right? Like I said before, we can see the DXY has been in an uptrend since January. That's very, very important, right? We have impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, right? For a long, long time. We recently had a huge correction back to the same exact level. And we can see how every time price action came there, it always pushed to the top side, right? But in this case, we can see what the fundamentals did to the market. It made the price action fall right back to the downside, right? Because it came out less than expected. If the news came out greater than expected, then the news as far as the DXY, that news would have made the DXY continue that uptrend, but that's not what happened, right? Now let's look at a DXY on the daily for day traders, right? If you're a day trader, you're looking at the DXY mainly on the day 84321, right? So looking at this right here, we can see this key level of support, right? Give me 1 second. We can see this key level support that this morning was just broken, right? 1 second, we add it back right about here. we have a key level of support, okay? We see this touch, right? When it broke above, pulled back, and it went higher. It came back here recently to go right back up, and it tried to test it once more to push back to the top side, but we see that news had a heavy effect on the market and it's driving price crazy to the downside. So this could be the end of the US dollar momentum as far as in that buy pressure, and sellers could now be reapproaching the market to take control. If price action, as we can see, stays below this level and then pulls back to it either here or right here, we're looking at a downward momentum to shift into the market, right? And that's very, very easy to happen, seeing that we've most likely been overbought on the DXY for over a year now. So seeing that shift in the market to come right back to the downside would be a great thing if you're looking to short anything against it, right? Excuse me, short USD dollar against anything like Euro or USD JPY and things like that. And Euro USD, British Pound USD are going to increase in value as the dollar is falling back down. So all these past levels are going to come right back into play for that future trend if it continues to push to the downside because of this heavy fundamental news. Also, let's look at EUR/USD very quickly and see what the effect is going on in the market on EUR/USD. If we're looking at this right here, guys, right, we can see EUR/USD has been kind of weird for a long time, been very choppy, not a lot of great price action, and that's because of the fundamentals. We can see this touch right here, how price action most likely always is rejected at this top level somewhere, right? Now, coming down to the 8-hour, a little bit closer, we can see that same touch we marked on the daily, and we can see the most recent trend. We see how it's in this downtrend right about here, right? Come down to the 4-hour, and we can see how this was a shift from that downtrend. It broke above, retest here, that was a buy. Broke above, retest here, and that was a buy. Now, recently, we saw it come right back here to that same level and fall right back to the downside, right? Momentum, right? When it comes to fundamentals, let's imagine that no news came out today. If no news came out today, most likely the euro would have kept on continuing to fall down. But because of the fundamental, look at that heavy bar all the way to the top side. I mean, it is beyond insane what really happens on fundamental days. But this been why it's been so crazy when it comes to price action. It's been a lot of back and forth, in the market. You got to be really careful about how you approach it. We're looking at British Pound USD. We can see the same thing. I was in a small short yesterday and made some money on the sell right here, right? And that small short got take profit to the downside. But now we can see how it shifted right off of that, okay? We're looking at the 4-hour. We can see how before, breakout, pullback, boom, right? Breakout, pullback. It could have kept on doing the same thing, but look at the fundamentals it does to the market, right? A huge knockout of everything right here, right? His recent retracement got knocked out in one bar in the market. And that's what I mean by fundamentals and what it does every single time, right? So the market is pretty much going very crazy this morning. And like I said, you can decide not to trade it and just be patient like everybody else. Or if you do decide to approach the market, you have to have a stop loss. Let's also look at gold as well. We can see that this right here is also pushing up in value. And why is that? Because the DXY in gold correlate so well, right? When the DXY, as far as dollar, loses value, gold becomes a new currency that traders are going to put their money into, right? Because it's also a safe haven. If their dollar is losing value, gold and silver is going up in value. And that's pretty much how it works. Because imagine if the dollar hits to zero, it's worthless now. All the gold and silver will be that new currency for the market and for transactions among people, right? And among governments. So really understand that. That's why right now, this morning, we're seeing the DXY, fall to the downside, and we're seeing gold as far as this right here push to the top side, right? We can see how gold been falling from this level for a long time, but now we might see it break and pull back, right? It can break above, pull back, and continue to rise to the top side. So this right here, Thursday morning, you got to be very careful about CPI news and always plan your trades out. Don't hop into a trade today for any given reason. Have a good morning, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.